Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Mind Control's Dawnbreaker, in the offlane in specific. But the reason why I want to look at Dawnbreaker here today is I think the hero is very powerful. I think it has a lot of potential in the upcoming meta. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of teams play this very high-paced style of Dota, and honestly I think Dawnbreaker just fits it perfectly. The hero loses very little lanes. In fact, I would even say in the majority of lanes, it actually wins. Now in this game, he's going to be laning against a Troll Warlord, so keep in mind he's against literally one of the best laning carries in Dota. If you've ever laned against a good Troll Warlord player, you know that this hero pokes the hell out of you, has a great range creep secure, and is overall just very difficult to lane against. Also, I want to quickly let you guys know that if you want to become even more broken, what you should do is go sign up to the gameleap website. Currently, it is 50% off. So if you want to sign up, you're going to get exclusive content that I make over there where I'm going to talk about the pro games that I play in DPC Division 1. I'm going to do analysis for those games. I'm going to talk about patch content, go over all the new builds that you can try. Also, what I'm going to do for the website is I'm going to play games and experiment with these new builds, kind of analyze those games, do live game analysis over there as well. So if you're interested in that type of thing, use code RANK50. I'll repeat that, no spaces, RANK50 for 50% off. Use that when you're checking out. 50% off right now. Click the link down below and I'll see you guys there. Alright, so let's take a look at his starting item build. So first of all, we got the branches with Quelling Blade, Gauntlet, and Stick. Keep in mind that he will be shipping out a salve right off the bat. This is largely going to become the professional meta, in my opinion, where the core actually doesn't buy tangos, or largely does not buy tangos, and instead opts to go for an early salve, which was recently buffed by 10 gold for the person who's actually using it on themselves, which is, it's something, it's nice. And you're gonna see the support feeding them a ton of tangos. You can see GH's Mirana here actually has 6 tangos, so he'll literally be handing those off to the offlaner. Now, the reason why Dawnbreaker is so good in lane is at level 2, she has one of the hardest spikes in Dota. There's not a lot of heroes that have 2 nukes at level 2 and 2 nukes that also disable. Her W at level 1 is a 24% slow that does 120 damage just if you hit them twice with the hammer, and when you pull back the hammer, it also does burn DPS where you sent the hammer. So basically, as you can see, this ability in and of itself can do like 160, 180 damage at level 1. And then the Q also does potentially like 200 damage at level 1. On top of that, a big weakness of a lot of heroes against Troll Warlord is the range creep. If they have to go for the range creep against Troll, he'll hit them, draw aggro off the range creep, hit them with slow axes, and cause them to overextend. With Dawnbreaker, that's not really a problem. You can easily throw your hammer, secure the creep, and continue to play defensive, or at least relatively defensive until you hit level 2. Of course, it depends on the lane. You know, sometimes you're just gonna have like a Lion Dawnbreaker lane against a Slark, and realistically, you can just W the Slark and impale him. He's gonna take like half his health, and there's gonna be no response. So in some lanes, yeah, you just dominate from the start. Against Troll, of course, that's not necessarily the case, especially against Troll Clock. Very good lane, very powerful, so it's not gonna go down like that. Also, keep in mind that this hero has 310 base movement speed, 5 armor, and 69 damage. Oh. So in terms of his early items, he goes for an early wand with, of course, a rush bracer. And I think there is other items you can go. The other item I personally would recommend is Orb of Venom. I don't see a lot of players doing this, but I will admit that I think it's incredibly powerful and something people should keep in mind. And the reason why is your kill potential at level 2 with an Orb of Venom rush is unbelievable. It's already high, but with Orb of Venom applying just that extra bit of slow, you can finish off kills you otherwise would have missed by a couple of hits. Now, as you can see in this lane, he ends up getting relatively left alone. This is obviously intentional from Enigma Galaxy. They're trying to enable the Void Spirit in a relatively hard matchup that he has against the Invoker. But all in all, you can see that Dawnbreaker really doesn't even have much of a problem. It's extremely easy to last hit. You can shove in the wave, like your level 2 hammer does about half of the creep wave's HP, if not a little bit more. And so it's incredibly easy, even if you're in a bad lane, to just shove out the wave. At level 4, you can basically clear the wave from full. I think it just barely doesn't, so you'll have to prep the creeps a bit. But all in all, he's completely alone, and yet he's still gonna do relatively fine. Now, if your lane is difficult, then this play you're about to see here is one really nice play. In general, I recommend that you spend the majority of your laning stage trying to just win the lane. Like, you should be buying a mango at some point, in my opinion. You have to buy a magic wand. It's good to ask your support to clear to you if you really need it. Like, you should be spamming spells at the enemy safe laner, especially when your hammer hits level 2. It increases quite significantly in damage, and overall your hero just scales incredibly well. But if the lane is going like quite poorly, or it's difficult, as we'll see here, he's been left alone, then what you can do is play for efficiency. Dawnbreaker is incredibly good at clearing a wave plus a small camp, and so what you're going to see from Mind Control is him drag it here. So that's what you should be looking for. Difficult lane, drag the wave in between the tier 1 and tier 2 to the small camp, and hammer it. Obviously, if there's a position 5 in the wave, it's not as easy, but even then, let's say you're full HP and some level 2 Crystal Maiden gets in the way, she's not too much of a threat to you, especially if it's a weaker hero like AA or something like that. You know, you can nearly solo kill these heroes at level 4 or 5, right? So you should not be afraid of them in general, and you can cut the wave like we'll see here. Obviously, the troll knows what he's doing, and he's going to try to pressure him a little bit because he understands how efficient this is actually for Mind Control. But Mind Control is going to evade the initial pressure and once again use the hammer to clear through the small camp and the wave. And your hero is incredibly difficult to gank as well, partially due to the fact that you have some of the highest base movement speed in Dota, which is kind of bizarre, but is the case, and the fact that you have really high HP as well as 2 disengage spells. Technically, your ulti is a disengage spell if they have no cancel, but your W is much better in that regard as he's able to get away. Troll even used ulti there, which is really, really nice, and he's able to disengage from, you know, a little bit below half HP. And one more little tip about Dawnbreaker that's probably interesting, even to players who maybe have played a good amount of Dawnbreaker, is when you throw your hammer, you don't have to go back to it. And I'm sure you know this, or if you play this hero, you have this idea, but when you throw it out, how this hero works is you have to activate it again. You have to click the ability a second time to pull back the hammer. That does the second instance of damage, and then causes the fire trail to be laid down. However, if you just wait long enough, the hammer will be pulled back to you, and the reason why this is also effective is when it's pulled back to you, it still does the damage, and it actually creates a massive fire trail. So this is also still good at clearing the waves, especially if the lane is hard or you feel in threat of dying. You can just throw down the hammer, run away, and it will come back to you and clear the wave. So your hero is really good at playing the dead lane and taking dangerous farm as well. Now I really love this next sequence from Mind Control. He goes back to base here on his level 6 timing, which is definitely the best time to go back to base because you could potentially save your TP, and that's exactly what we're gonna see here. It's a beautiful play from Nigma. Everything's coming together. They have the Dawnbreaker ulti, which is, by the way, one of the hardest level 6 spikes in Dota. So the reason why your ulti is so good is it does damage, it heals, and when you land, it does extra bonus damage, 130 damage nuke, quite significant, and stuns. It's just one of those abilities that does an insane amount. It's an AoE heal, AoE damage. It forces people to disengage off who you're going on, or if they don't, they just die. And we'll kind of see that here. They're gonna go on the Void Spirit, I think, in a moment. And yeah, here comes the Dawnbreaker ulti. These players are obviously good enough to try to get out of the way and dodge, but the Tusk, unfortunately, wasn't really able to truly get out of there, and they're able to take a pretty convincing fight. The Q comes out, and Dawnbreaker Q, for only 1 point in this ability, is a stupid amount of damage. Because how it works is it does damage based on your base damage, and then bonus damage, right? So if you hit them with all 3 swipes, it's gonna do like 300 damage with 1 point. And you'll see that against the Clockwork in a moment here. He doesn't hit him with every single swipe, but 2 swipes does 200 damage. The hammer to finish him off, and yeah, Dawnbreaker just pumps damage in the early game. Like, it's an unbelievable hero at level 6. There's not a lot of heroes at level 6 that have the same impact as Dawnbreaker, which is why this hero plays really well with these high tempo team comps. And part of the reason why I love this Nigma draft, they have, you know, Void Spirit, Monkey King, 2 heroes that are very powerful in the early game and a lot of setup for the ulti, right? When you pick Dawnbreaker, generally I also recommend that you have, have a stun, because if you don't, your ulti can just get kited too easily and it doesn't feel very good. And yeah, in terms of the skill build, I like what he has here. You go for a 1-2-1, right? So you should put a point in your luminosity. If you don't understand how this ability works, it's very similar to like Jingu Mastery, which is a more understood ability, I think. All right, so how this ability works is on your 4th hit, you crit and you heal off of it. On top of that, that heal goes to your teammates in an AoE. So basically, it's like in the mid to late game, it heals a ton because it's based off the damage you deal. So if you get to your like Deso timing, which you can go on this hero, you can go like BKB Deso with Shard, then your hero heals a ton and it crits. So it's sort of like a right-click scaling hero to some extent. Obviously in the early game, that's not the biggest concern, but it is nice to have the value point like we'll see here. And the reason why that value point is so nice is it does allow you to crit off your Q. Your Q doesn't really scale very well. It does go down in cooldown, but the stun barely goes up. The bonus damage is underwhelming, so it's definitely better to have the point in luminosity as we see here. But once again, the main idea of Dawnbreaker is you're gonna farm a lot and you're gonna show up to fights almost only with your ulti. And the reason why is Dawnbreaker is one of the best farming heroes in Dota. Your W, when maxed out, one-shots the creep wave, right? It one-shots creep waves. Anytime there's a hero in Dota that can one-shot creep waves, you're gonna see them farming a lot, right? Even if they don't necessarily need very many items, they're still gonna farm a lot just for XP. And that's largely the case with Dawnbreaker. Even here, we're gonna see Mind Control go to the bottom side of the map in kind of a weird fashion. He TP's bottom with no ulti, which is honestly something I would find generally very questionable. But clearly his team just feels like they want to split the map. With a few abilities on cooldown, notably the Astral Steps from Void Spirit, and Monkey King just not really being online yet, but most importantly, his ulti being down, he wants to split the map. And as long as you have Soul Ring, you're generally able to actually sustain with your E, which he's going to be maxing out now. I like the skill build. I think the Q is nice, but you don't really need multiple points in it. It's kind of better to have the E so that you heal hard off of it. And the E actually works with your Q. Your Q is considered attacks. So if you Q, it also can heal you in an AoE. So basically what I mean by that is it's very important to use the Starbreaker when you have 3 stacks of this luminosity attack buff in fights or if you're trying to heal. But we'll see off this play bottom, he's able to get the tower completely alone, and the enemy team doesn't even try to gank him. They understand how tanky he is. They'd have to bring so many heroes just to take him down. It would be a real inconvenience, but he's able to continue going through the bottom side of the map, shoves the creep wave all the way into the tower, putting some tower pressure, causing the enemy to lose these creeps, right? They're just simply losing the gold, which is a big concept a lot of people don't understand, right? So he's putting map pressure, giving vision, and causing them to lose creeps. He also decides to stack this camp, which I think he saw got warded, so he kind of was a little bit afraid to farm it at the time. But once again, you can even take stacks, right? This hero, it's just a farming menace. Like, it's incredibly, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's like a big thing for me. People will pick this, and then they'll just try to fight the whole game instead of playing like a Spectre. You should be playing Dawnbreaker like Spectre and like Nature's Prophet. Honestly, the only hard part to this hero, other than hitting your W and your Q, which is a little bit difficult as you can't move when you're queuing, is just paying attention to the map while farming, right? Having the ability to do both is honestly quite a difficult skill, at least do both well. Because as we'll see here, his ulti, I mean, it couldn't come at a better time. It allows Kuroki to get off the mech, which is freaking massive because the Chen stays alive. Now he can get off the mech, the Penitence, just in general waste more of the Tusk's time, which is not what Tusk wants to be doing, chasing a Chen in a team fight. And yeah, he's able to go on to Palanthamos, just force out the troll ulti. I mean, look at the damage. I'm just going to go back to that briefly. I mean, it's so much damage because your ulti does damage, your W does a ton of damage, the fire is burning the troll. Look at the Q damage here, a 330 damage crit. Because he's level 10 with quite a bit of stats, right? So he's hitting quite hard. 140 right now is nothing to laugh at. And he just completely chunks through this troll, stuns him up at the end, kites out, really well done. He's just so tanky, taking minimal damage from the troll with his 15 armor, and they convincingly win the fight. And after that, look what he does. Back to farming. You can even W through camps, right? So he threw one hammer through the camps. If you're ever farming in the Dire Jungle, you can drag this camp to here, you can drag this camp to here. You can even hammer, if you're quelling through, you can even hammer this camp to here. So there's a lot of ways you can amp your farm in that regard as well with Dawnbreaker. One thing that I found a little bit crazy but interesting was that he actually buys his shard immediately at minute 15. I have a feeling this is partially because they were snowballing, but if you don't know what it does, it grants your Q magic immunity. So when you cast your Q, it gives you magic immunity. I don't believe it dispels you, though, which is kind of odd unless they changed that. And it gives you free movement during your Q. So basically, you can like moonwalk when queuing, and it guarantees that you can hit the majority of it. It's really nice to kite out with this ability. Basically, as you can see, you can kind of move with it, which guarantees that you can hit the Q, which is nice because it's very easy to juke, like very easy to juke. So this guarantees that you can hit it, and on top of that, it gives you this magic immunity. So if he's getting gone on by a clock or a Phoenix, right, a Phoenix Sunray or an EMP is about to hit him, he can just click his Q and he's completely safe. And honestly, this game is starting to come to an end. Obviously, funny enough, it actually lasts for like 30 minutes, but once again, the Dawnbreaker just coming into play here. I love this draft from Nigma. This Chen plus Dawnbreaker, the global heal, is just honestly incredible. We'll see. The Monkey King gets gone on. He's just fine. Turns it around with the Dawnbreaker. W through to slow him up, do some damage. Fire Trail also sets up. It slows, so it sets up for the Q. Hits the Q. Troll dead. And yeah, this game is rough. And this, honestly, this largely happens with Dawnbreaker. It's very common where your team can get a 5, 6, 7k gold lead 16 minutes in. And the reason why is usually your offlaner, if they want to get really active, they're either not going to have farming abilities, right? And they're not going to be able to farm just because they're not one of those type of heroes or a Dawnbreaker. Or they're just not going to be able to farm because they need to be close to the fight, right? But that's not the case with Dawnbreaker. This is never really a problem. You can be active without being active, and you can see how that really plays out in this game. He has 120 CS. He is the highest CS in the game, right? He's completely shut down the enemy CS. Now you might be looking at this and being like, oh my god, the enemy is so bad. How does this Invoker have so low CS? How does Tusk have no CS? I'm better than these guys. It's like, yeah, because you're not playing against the Chen, Mirana, Void Spirit, Monkey King, Dawnbreaker team comp, 5 fast-paced heroes running at you for 17 minutes straight, right? It's a little bit difficult to farm when that is the case. All right, and to skip on ahead a little bit, just want to move on to a bit of a later pace in the game. So you can see he's snowballing really hard, and let's quickly go over talents and the items that he chooses. So he goes for the Starbreaker, swipe, smash, damage. Honestly, I think this talent is a little bit overrated compared to the other one. Here's the reason why I think players overrate it a little bit. It's only bonus damage that it amps, which is kind of underwhelming. It's a maximum of 75 bonus damage, which is like something. It's not nothing, it's something. But 15% slow on the hammer brings your W up to a 51% slow. It's obviously already a 36% slow, which is really high, but I don't know. I'm a big fan of the slow talent. I just feel like the other one's kind of a debate, because it feels like, oh, I'm building around my Q. I'm building a BKB into death, so I should take the Q talent. But it's like, nah, at level 15, if you're snowballing, take Luminosity crit. Solar Guardian cooldown is not a bad talent, but honestly, it goes down in cooldown. Like, it was even recently buffed to go down in cooldown in the most recent patch, which was a nice change to the hero. It's only 90-second cooldown at max. But Luminosity crit, it's a 50% bonus to the crit. It's huge, right? It's really a big buff to the crit. It's going to be an extra, what, like 75 damage? More. Actually, it's almost a bonus 100 damage. Like 90 damage-ish at this point of the game on his crit, which is huge, right? That's obviously quite nice. Considering you're going to be able to use that multiple times in a fight, that's really going to come into play. With the Deso, it's even higher. Way higher, actually. And with the Deso, man, this hero's Q does damage. Dawnbreaker's Q, when you crit with this Deso, and it's easy to use the Q, right? When you have the shard, so you should almost always have this like BKB shard. By the way, Soul Ring is an absolute necessity for sure. I know I didn't stress it earlier, but I'm gonna stress it now. You cannot play the hero without Soul Ring, and you cannot play it without Clarities. Even with Soul Ring, you will run out of mana if you're playing well. You will. And by the way, look what's happening. Look what he's doing. I love this, man. This is how, like, oh god, I love this. I love this hero so much. But even when his team is like ending and they're like pressuring the base, look what he's farming. Because he understands if he can farm this while his team controls the opposite side of the map, their net worth lead is just going to go through the roof. He's going to hit timing so quickly, and he's still able to be in the fights. And, you know, Dawnbreaker doesn't have a setup stun, and she doesn't have a setup slow. So you might as well do something like this. And as you'll see, fight breaks out. This ends up, I think, being the fight where he actually almost dies. Look at the damage on the Tusk there. Oh my god. Look at that Tusk. Take a peek at this Tusk's HP, right? Look at this guy. I'm gonna hover over the Tusk. This Tusk doesn't even feel remotely threatened. And then out of nowhere, oh my, doosh! What the? He lost 1,000 HP. It's like a 600 damage crit. Now, obviously, of course, he's 14k net worth. He's huge. But once again, it is not hard to get farmed on Dawnbreaker. It is very easy to snowball with this hero. Like, it is very, very common for you to have a good game on this hero. Like, I'm just being honest. Unfortunately, he does end up getting chased down by the troll here, but either way, you could see the damage. Nearly saves his Monkey King. Just chops through the Tusk there with this Deso timing. And there are some different builds. You can go like you can go like many different builds on this hero. You can go Wraith Pact. You can go Pipe. You can buy a Force Staff if your team needs it. Like, you can kind of buy whatever on Dawnbreaker because the hero, it will generally have impact with just its abilities, but honestly, in pubs, I would say the best build is what we're seeing here, which is this, you know, BKB shard in the Deso. And the reason why is it just scales. Like, you can definitely fall off. Your hero falls off, just to be clear. Like, you do fall off unless you scale with the right-click items, and the main one being Deso, and then after that, you can go into, like, Daedalus. I've seen AC as well is pretty good, because that's like a mix. Doubling down on the minus armor is really nice. So, in general, it's, you know, there's a couple ways you can go on this hero. I think even people go Daedalus, which is definitely a crazy one, but you can. Once again, back to farming the jungle, just trying to clean the game out. He wants to get huge. He's got a Blink Dagger now, and he even TP's bottom. Look at this, I love this dude. He's just like, yeah, I'm farming bottom, guys. You guys do you. I'll join if needed. I'm gonna clean the bot wave, use up the bot wave. And by the way, the hero's talents are also really good. You get luminosity attacks required, which guarantees that your Q procs a crit. That's really nice. The Solar Guardian Radius is honestly quite good. I think it is a very good talent. So I would say some games people should consider it, because the landing stun is a 2-second stun. And with this increased radius, it's really hard to get out of. It's a really huge increase to the radius. But at level 25, it's a very simple choice. You take Dawnbreaker charges, no doubt. Like, if you're scaling with the right click, I mean, even if you're not scaling with the right click, you take 2 Dawnbreaker charges so you can have more spell immunity with your shard. But as we'll see in this team fight, hopping in onto the troll, clean him up, clean up the egg, and he can lay pop his BKB. And look at that, look at the clockwork, man. Was it the clockwork? Wait, was that Tusk? No, it was the clockwork. He bought back, right? I think it was the clockwork. Yeah. Just, oh my! When you crit, the hero just disappears. I mean, to be fair, he exploded to multiple heroes there. But all right, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Honestly, this is a hero I'm going to be playing a lot. Even mid, I think it's good. You can play this hero as support because it's like a dominant laner, and you can play very similar to what I showed you in today's video, build similar items. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going BKB and like Shard and Deso, but you could go something like, you could go Mech, like Mataboot's Mech is fine. You could go Wraith Pact, you could go Force Staff, Glimmer is fine. You can buy anything on this hero because once again, your abilities just inherently do things. You don't really need items to enable your abilities, and as a result, you can kind of just buy whatever your team needs. And so yeah, I expect to see a lot of Dawnbreaker this DPC. I think this hero is quite good, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!